Hello, Bleep heads. Sean here. Thank you so much for listening to What the Bleep Are You Playing? This is a very special episode of What the Bleep Are You Watching? Our podcast that we play over on our Patreon, patreon.com/whatthebleep. In honor of Street Fighter 6 launching today, we thought we would cover Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, for What the Bleep Are You Watching? If you enjoyed this episode and would like to listen to more of them, you can just by subscribing over at our Patreon, patreon.com/whatthebleep. You also get our What the Bleep Are You Playing episodes 1 week early and a chance to support us as we try to continue to grow and continue to do this passion project that we have. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. And without further ado, enjoy. Hello, and welcome to What the Bleep Are You Watching? A podcast where we watch a film and tell you why the bleep we watched it. I am Hadoken Sean. This is Shuriken Thomas and special friend Mason. And we watched... Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. So how you guys doing?
Now, so something that I was confused about when I was watching this is that which of the 9 million versions of Street Fighter 2 is this based on?
Yes.
Yes.
Because that's the only thing that I know about Street Fighter 2 is that there's a billion different versions of the same game.
So we are celebrating the release of Street Fighter 6 by watching the best Street Fighter movie?
Probably.
What else is there to compare it with?
Obviously the masterpiece that is the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
So what else is there to compare it to?
You like The Room.
Okay.
Nah, in all seriousness, no. This is probably the best Street Fighter movie. Again, that Mason's not wrong, it's not a high bar. So, yeah.
So this was released in Japan in 94, August 6th, 1994. It was released theatrically in the United Kingdom, France, and Spain. But it was not theatrically released in America. It was dubbed by English and then distributed out by Toei in Japan. And then 20th Century Fox was the distributor here in America. So technically,
really?
Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, is
now owned by Disney.
Is now owned by Disney. So Ryu, best Disney princess. No, it's Ken.
I was going to say, you see that hair in the flashback, it's Ken.
So when is Street Fighter World going to be added to Kingdom Hearts?
Soon. But only from this movie.
So Sora just all of a sudden becomes like a 90s anime protagonist.
This movie is the most 90s anime that is ever 90s anime, but
yeah,
also with the most 80s movie soundtrack that is ever 80s movied.
Yeah.
The score, the licensed music, because there's a lot of licensed music in the English dub. That's 90s.
That's all
shit.
90s.
That's
yeah.
90s shit.
Which is something a lot of dubs did in the 90s and then in the 2000s, was when they would take, especially movies. They did it less with series, but to try to attract audiences, they would put all the hard rock licensed music onto things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this movie has it.
Yeah,
this movie really does.
I'm not sure if Dragon Ball would have gotten the same praise if instead of making Rock the Dragon, they just put in Korn music for the intro.
Hey, I'd watch it. That'd actually get me to watch it.
But in 94, to have a $6 million budget in Japan is really high.
And I think that is because Street Fighter 2 was on top of the goddamn world. There's Street Fighter 2 exploded the fighting game genre. So,
and this the announcement of this movie happened in a Street Fighter tournament
Which
is kind of amazing.
It's really the only way they could have done it, isn't it?
Pretty much.
And it made $29 million if you adjust for inflation.
Goddamn.
Not too shabby.
Yeah.
Not too
so,
shabby.
considering without a U.S. theatrical release, which, not that it would have made buku bucks here, but it would have still probably pulled in 15, 20 million, I would bet.
Yeah, because it was released on HBO in America, I believe.
I believe that's correct. This is a weird film in that it is kind of in that area where anime had not fully taken off in America yet. So, like, I think that's probably why they didn't release it in theaters or didn't, like, have as big of, like, a theatrical release, because we're at kind of the beginning of anime hitting America.
Yeah.
We're still, I think, a year or so, maybe 2, from Dragon Ball Z starting to air on TVs in America. We're a ways away from, we're still a few years from Pokemon airing in America, so and being a thing. So, like,
this would have been after Akira came out, right?
yes,
Yeah.
So, like, there are obviously there was a lot of anime. There's tons of great 70s and 80s anime. Like, anime has been around for a long time, but it really hadn't hit America other than niche audiences at this point, because it wasn't airing on a lot of TV channels. You know, if you were into it, it's because you found it, and you got illegally pirated stuff, or somebody had recorded a VHS from Japan, or you had fan dubs and putting subtitles on it. But it was hard to find like dubbed anime a ton at this point because it just wasn't super popular yet.
Right.
And then it would become really popular. I wonder what a movie like this would look like with something like the modern dubbing taking over it, and how much that might change some of the look of this film.
Yeah.
In terms of the way it's done, because it is very 90s dubbing. Not that any of the voice actors are necessarily bad, but there's just a style of dubbing that 90s anime had that is sometimes not good.
It doesn't age well.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about it. So.
But yeah, what do you say we jump right into the plot here? Because not a lot of little extra things really to talk about besides this movie, and the plot in this movie is there are some street fights in this Street Fighter movie.
Yeah, you know what? You get what you were advertised. So.
You get yeah.
So we open on lightning and epic music as the opening credits are rolling, and we have the grunts of men fighting.
It rolls over as a street into this Street Fighter movie.
Which I'm sure this was probably a cool as hell opening in Japan, where the characters are popping up in between. It's still cool here, but I can't read a goddamn thing.
It's all in kanji. Almost all in kanji, yeah. But we get our first shot of Ryu, and he's fighting... Thomas, who is he fighting?
Sagat.
Sagat, thank you.
Bob Sagat. Sorry.
I'm gonna...
So, not to punch Mason in this new Mason fight, but Ryu is fighting Sagat, and something is watching them and scanning them. As
Scanning them
they're
for power
fighting.
levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eventually, Ryu wins the fight by using his Hadouken as he fires it into what we get the title drop.
Yeah, which is a dope ass title drop.
Mm-hmm.
It is very cool.
And we'll probably bring it up more as the movie goes on, but just from the beginning, you can tell the animation in this movie is fucking stunning.
Oh yeah.
And the art is also really good. There are moments where some of the faces don't always look great, but overall the art is really good in this movie.
Yeah, like even just stills of this movie I find really
gorgeous.
And this whole intro is really good at being like if you're in on this intro, you're in for the rest of the movie.
Pretty much, yeah.
It sets the tone really well.
Yep, because it is in fact a fight. It's a good ass fight. But that's kind of all.
It's also immediately you notice kind of the way they're going to do the style of the fights in this movie. This scene sets the tone that a lot of the fights are going to be more of a close-up, that they're not as concerned with showing you as much of the cool action. While there is a lot of cool action, they're not as much concerned. They're more concerned about the characters being up close and fighting. So, like, if you had pulled back a little bit and drawn it, you might get less of the facial expressions and more of, like, the action. And they're really concerned with how everyone's reacting during the fight.
Mm-hmm.
We cut after the title to a building of some form, and there's a lady disguised as men are walking out of the building, and it's Cammy, and she attacks.
Yeah, breaks this Minister of Justice, I believe was.
I think that's
name.
right.
And Cammy, Street Fighter, it's usually pretty PG. You just get knocked out. There's not a whole bunch of talk of death except in like backstories. And then Cammy just snaps this dude's neck.
Yeah, Cammy snap. Like, this movie's probably the most graphic I've ever seen Street Fighter get.
Yeah, because there's a lot of blood. It's not necessarily like brutal stuff. Like Street Fighter's not going Mortal Kombat or anything, but there's definitely plenty of blood. There's a lot of bones breaking and all that shit.
Mm-hmm. So. It definitely has a lot more brutality than the games usually do.
Yes. Which I'm fine with, because when you look at it in the games, it makes sense that these people would be getting fucking brutalized. And Cammy, and in the backstories, especially Cammy's, she is a trained assassin, so it makes sense that her first scene in one of her 2 scenes is her killing someone. So
we cut after that, and that's pretty much the last we're going to see of Cammy, aside from a small moment later. Hi, Cammy, you were in this movie.
That's little warning if you're somehow a Street Fighter fan who has not seen this movie. First off, I'm shocked. Second of all, a lot of fan favorite characters are very much sidelined.
Well, they just wanted to make sure every character got represented in this movie, but not always
necessarily like
as an actual character in this movie.
Not necessarily like important to the story, just that they're there.
Yeah.
But that being said, she does get more to do in this movie than Akuma? Is that his name? Yeah.
Akuma, Zangief, Blanca, DJ. Take your pick.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of sideline characters. Heck, after the opening bit, even though Sagat's in this movie, he doesn't do anything else the rest of this movie, really.
Not really.
Yeah.
Chun-Li is now the cutover, and she is talking to leaders of Interpol and talking about what's going on. It seems like bad things are happening, and evil M. Bison is doing things. And
as he does.
They call it the Shadow Law, right?
It's Shadow Law. Even though it's in every other adaptation, it's Shadow Lu, or is that just Japanese? And I'm being a weeb. I don't remember.
It might be. It might be a little bit.
I think it's usually Shadow Lu, but a lot of adaptations call it Shadow Law.
It might be one of those translation things that can be translated multiple ways because the Japanese letter isn't one way or another necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
Chun-Li then goes to meet Guile, who is flying planes, and basically is like, we need to work together.
And Guile's like, fuck off, woman.
Guile's like, yeah, I work alone.
Yeah, Guile kind of has he has a little bit of an arc in this movie, not much of one, but he's got the arc of kind of learning to trust specifically Chun-Li.
Yeah, he doesn't have much of an arc in this movie, but the movie is mostly portrayed through his eyes.
Yeah, even though technically... Really, the main character of the movie is... We follow Ryu for a lot of it, but...
Ryu and Ken are the main characters.
Ryu and Ken are the main characters.
But it's not really seen through their eyes, except through the flashbacks.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right, it is mostly Guile's eyes. Maybe that was their way of tying it into the 94 movie.
Yeah, maybe a bit. We then cut to Bison, who is walking with Vega... Sagat and Balrog, and they then walk and walk.
They walk for a very long time.
It's like 3 minutes straight of walking.
And,
they were really proud of this animation they did. It's like, you're going to sit here, and you're going to
watch these characters walk.
You're going to fucking like it.
And he walks all the way to get into a room to sit down, and then for his scientist man to be like, "Oh, sir, we are here." It's like, what? Why is this room so far into the... Is your fortress this massive?
That's what I like to imagine. I mean, it's in the middle. It's built into a fucking mountain. It ain't exactly tiny.
Yeah.
But it's a very weird kind of like some of it maybe is like they're padding the runtime. I don't know, but there's a couple of times where like it's like, are we just gonna watch these people walking?
I mean, this movie's an hour and 40 minutes long. They didn't need to pad it out that much.
I was gonna say
I would think.
they could have cut it down to just an hour 30.
They're like, more walking or more Cammy? Walking.
Walking.
It turns out that Bison is having cyborgs created that are watching people. Monitor cyborgs, I believe is what they call them.
Yes, monitor side.
And they are tall monsters. Definitely, if I'm going to try to create inconspicuous cyborgs, I'm definitely going to make them giants.
These were the things that were scanning Sagat and Ryu.
Yes.
During their fight, yeah.
So definitely, if I'm going to hide into a crowd, I'm definitely going to be making them designed after the things that are taller than most crowds.
Yeah. And you might be wondering, well, what are the monitor cyborgs for? They are analyzing fighter data, basically. They're seeing who's the toughest, who's the strongest.
Basically, Bison is trying to create a super team, kind of like the best, or eliminate anyone who won't join or can't be mind controlled.
Pretty much, yeah.
Basically, he's like, I will control all the high power levels.
What are they? Some kind of Suicide Squad?
The monitor cyborgs are basically just the scouters from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, they really are. They just happen to have a whole ass body now.
We then cut to Ryu training.
Because that is what Ryu does in his spare time.
And whenever we cut to Ryu or Ken, we get a flashback as well to watching Ryu and Ken have their budding romance. I mean, learn how to fight.
Reminds me a lot of the scenes in G.I. Joe with Snake Eyes. With Snake Eyes and the
Storm
other guy.
Shadow.
Storm Shadow, yeah.
I mean, they're the same in that there's martial arts and flashbacks, but really the tone of them are very different.
Yeah, that's fair.
We flash back to fighting Ken, and we have that then we get to Ken after that, and he is talking to a lady.
Eliza,
the love of his life. Sure. Definitely not Ken, or not Ryu.
Yep.
More than anything, this is just to introduce the characters here. Just like, hey, look, these are characters.
This is kind of the big overview of the characters. So.
We then cut to Fei Long is late for his movie, and the director is very upset. Enter in walking into a fighting area where Ryu is being forced to fight a man. Because he said something.
Because apparently he shit talked, even though Ryu says, I didn't say anything.
Yeah, it's... Who knows? Ryu wins that fight really easily, and then Fei Long...
With like one punch.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, not even a punch, he just headbutts the guy. Really
Headbutts to victory.
Yeah.
And Fei
This
Long...
movie really likes headbutts.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
Fei Long's like, I'm going to be your new challenger, and decides to fight Ryu.
And thus we get the big fight, the first big fight of the movie, Ryu versus Bryan Cranston.
Fei Long is being voiced by Bryan Cranston, yes, in a small role.
There's a lot of voice actors where you're like, oh shit, like they're in there.
Most of them are like early anime and animation voice actors. Like the amount of times I go, I've heard that voice, and it's usually just a small character in some random anime I've seen.
Yeah.
But the Bryan Cranston one is wild because he did do a lot of voice work, but never really under his own name. He used pseudonyms. Before getting his big breaks and actually in movies and TV.
Yeah, which I know everyone's like Walter White from Breaking Bad. That's the Bryan Cranston they always hear. I always hear Hal from Malcolm in the Middle.
That's what I was thinking too.
So I'm just imagining Hal in the same scenario as Ryu, where he didn't actually say anything but gets forced into the fighting ring.
Bryan Cranston will always be Hal for me.
There's a great Bryan Cranston story out there because he was on Seinfeld. And he's a dentist, I think. It's a dentist or a doctor. And in the scene before putting the laughing gas, I think so, dentist, putting on laughing gas, I believe it's on Jerry Seinfeld, he takes a hit of it and then before putting it on. But the joke of this is that that's not in the script. That wasn't even his idea. At the end of one night we're practicing, like a carpenter on the set was like, hey, You know what would be funnier? If you did this.
And Bryan Cranston was like, "You're right, good carpenter man."
It's one of the funniest TV stories I think I've ever heard.
That is hilarious.
But before he did that, he was Fei Long, who is the Bruce Lee wannabe. And this fight's pretty good. Like, it's solid. Ryu is definitely in control for the majority of the fight, but it's not a, like,
It's not
quick
one-sided.
one punch.
Yeah, it's not a beatdown. It's just Ryu. You kind of know Ryu is going to win.
Ryu eventually breaks his arm.
Yep.
So, but they're both being scanned by robots because robots are everywhere. And
Yeah, Bison has just sent so many of these goddamn things out.
and
There's
then
so many robots in disguise.
there is also robots scanning an abandoned building area, and that's because Ken is in a fight. He is fighting T-Hawk, voiced by our favorite Steve Bloom.
Yes, friend of the show. We've never met.
Yes.
I wish he was friend of the show. He's friend of the show in my heart.
He's friend of the show as in we keep running into him
Keep
somehow.
bringing him up.
In my heart, he's my friend. And Ken really wipes the floor with T-Hawk,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which then kind of has that we see a little bit of that Bison is like,
Yeah. Bison.
interesting.
They overlay the footage so that Ken and Ryu are fighting at the same time. They're like, "Oh, it's the same moves. They trained under the same master." And Bison's like, all right, get the white boy."
It's because they bring the scientist guy says something about that when they're watching. He's like that their powers or that they're
Very similar powers.
very similar power and very similar in strength and
Which
fighting ability. And
it
stuff
cracks
like
me up going back to this before all of the other like kind of retcons because there's so much shit where it's like Ryu and Ken are the same power level, and I'm like, I mean, kind of, but Ryu also has Dark Ryu,
that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you're telling me there isn't a Dark Ken yet?
Violent Ken,
Oh.
Capcom
I mean,
versus SMK, baby.
we kind of got Dark Kid in this movie.
Oh yeah,
that's true. That we did.
Wait, spoilers.
We did get Violent Ken in this movie.
So after all that, we cut to India. I'm assuming India because we have Gandhi, but
Yeah, Gandhi's just there for some reason. Not unimportant to the story. It's just Gandhi.
It's just
we have in the background of these scenes we have Akuma
who's
and Gandhi.
Who are just there.
Yeah, which again kind of cracks me up because Akuma would become arguably one of the most important characters in Street Fighter to the point where he breaks into other franchises because of how important he is. And in this movie, he's just a guy.
just a guy in the background.
Because they didn't have much lore on Akuma yet other than he is a strong fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryu accidentally makes a kid spill milk and then is like, "Here, take money. Go get milk for your mother."
Because Ryu has no use for money.
Yeah.
It's a scene there. I guess it's trying to say that Ryu's selfless. Like, again, there's sometimes this movie is just scenes of things happening at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That don't always tie together. But I guess they're trying to just build up that Ryu's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like he does the right thing and he's nice.
A lot of it does kind of feel like Street Fighter fan service.
Which I like, but I...
That's fair.
We cut to a fight happening. Well, it is E. Honda, voiced by the same voice actor who voiced Joseph Joestar in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which was a light bulb moment for me. Going, oh my god! Voicing E. Honda, and Dalsim is also, and they're fighting. And we don't get much of this fight. It's cool. They show Dalsim shows some of his moves off that you see from the game. And then he starts using some mystic magic stuff to control, like try to shut down like E Honda's brain, and E Honda's like, "Don't cheat."
Which, no, that's not a thing in the games. I don't know why they didn't just have him breathe fire, but whatever.
Yeah.
And Dalsim then is like, "I feel power," and he looks around and he sees Ryu in the crowd, and then basically like, "I forfeit. There's a powerful dude in the crowd. I have to forfeit."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And E Honda's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
No, I want to fight.
You're
No.
not gonna lose honorably.
Then some people come in and they assassinate Gandhi.
Yeah, they drive by they drive by, shoot just basically everyone in the crowd almost.
Including Gandhi.
Yeah, including Gandhi. Ryu saves the little girl, who's back.
But not Gandhi for some reason. Wow, Ryu. Way to prioritize.
Look, the
Then
little girl is cute. Gandhi isn't. Fuck him.
Then the most important thing happens. Ryu kicks through a car.
She cracked me the fuck up.
Yeah. That's the India scenes. E Honda comes over and offers Ryu money because he helped him win the fight. And then is like, us Japanese fighters need to stick together.
Which I like. E Honda's just kind of a stand-up guy. We don't get much E Honda in a lot of Street Fighter Extended Universe stuff, so it's kind of nice to see a lot of him here.
Mm-hmm.
Guile is driving, and Chun-Li stops him. And then he's like, I'm doing my own thing. And she's like, I can take care of myself. And then he starts to maybe try to run her over, and then is like, no.
Those thighs would break through my car.
Yeah. And then he tries to maybe start a fight, and it looks like Chun-Li would win because Guile doesn't fight in this movie. He fights once, and we'll get to it, and it's an ass kicking on him.
Yeah.
It's kind of astonishing that, I mean, spoilers, they advertised the live action movie at the end of this one, at the end of the credits, which is very ironic because Guile does no fighting in this movie. And he is like the only one who gets a proper fight in the live action movie. It's like they had to make up for something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if he got more fights in this movie, would they have let other people fight in the live action movie?
No.
All right then.
Guile then agrees to go with Chun-Li, and they're gonna go to DJ.
Yeah, who, again, good character, good introduction, good song for the introduction.
Absolutely.
Shows up once and is never seen again.
Yep, is just kind of there.
Yeah, it kind of just... Yeah.
Look,
and there's a great moment. Like, the scene has the best moment is they're like, we need to look for these robots. And Chun-Li's like, you mean these things over here? And, like, kicks off the head of one of them.
Decapitates one with
It's
the kick.
really funny.
It is, yes.
Because they are the most obvious robots. Like, they are so obvious.
Yeah. I love this movie, but I ain't gonna say it's not flawed. So, yeah.
There's then... we get a scene of Bison, and he's looking at the footage that he's seen because they scanned Chun-Li, Guile, and obviously
and DJ.
Bison has killed people, specifically people that Guile and Chun-Li know. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bison has killed Guile's best friend Charlie, and he's killed Chun-Li's father, which cracks me up because we never, aside from, I guess, the movie that shall not be named, we don't really see in a lot of continuities how Bison kills Chun-Li's dad. In this version, he just yeets him off some scaffolding.
which leads to possibly my favorite line in the movie as Bison is like, ah, yes, I remember her father's accident. It's like...
Wink, wink.
I love Bison. He's such a dick.
He is, and he's done pretty well in this movie. Then we get another one of those really weird scenes in this movie. We go to a fancy party, where then we get a shot of Balrog, who is dressed in a suit and holding a phone, which is microscopic in his hand.
It's like watching what's it? It's like watching Shaq hold something.
He's holding it like in between his thumb and index finger, and it's like, dude.
Yeah.
Like he sneezes in awe, calling it.
Which, this is probably where one of the only real bad designs in this movie, and that's Balrog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has that problem that a lot of anime have, where it's like, oh, that's a racist.
Yeah, it's got the characters of black people that a lot of animes unfortunately have. Also, like, there's like they infer that he's just dumb. Like, there's a lot of like weird racial stereotypes around him. That's like,
Yeah.
he's the only character that you're like, ooh.
He's like one move away from like carrying a fried chicken bucket around. with him
Yeah,
everywhere.
like it's.
Give him the afro and all that shit. It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Which is funny because literally the scene before this, we got DJ, who's a really well-designed anime character, black anime character.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get to Balrog, and it's like, oh, They had to make up for lost time.
Yes.
At this fancy party, as everyone is leaving the room, because they're gonna go watch a fight at this fancy party, and it's Zangief versus Blanca. It's a cool couple of moments, but they're just there to fight quickly because you're like, oh yeah, remember Zangief and Blanca? They need to be in this movie too.
They're just there to fight quickly, and Balrog is there to flex out of a tux.
Yeah,
Which is, I thought that was hilarious.
it's
That is
hilarious.
hilarious.
Zangief makes bedroom eyes at Balrog, and
He's also got a massive beard, which I didn't really think about. Like every version of Zangief that I've seen, he doesn't really have that much of a beard. He has a beard, but it's not like that big.
yeah.
Like
it depends on it.
it's
There's
very
somewhere I've
bushy.
seen.
Like I said, it depends. Street Fighter 6, on topic, kind of. He has a massive beard in Street Fighter 6.
Well, we had the racist undertones in the scenes. Now let's go to the slightly objectifying scene.
Slightly.
Okay, very objectifying scene.
Yeah.
We had to get Chun-Li in the shower.
It's a fighting game anime. You needed to get a chick in the shower. That's how it works.
Yep. And when this movie opened, it had the rating at the top of it for nudity, and I was like, what? And here's why it's rated there.
Yep.
I mean, again, that's kind of a thing with not only fighting game anime, but especially 90s anime.
Oh, very much.
Like, you need the titty, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's there. The phone is ringing because Guile is trying to contact Chun-Li because, Vega's coming, which then leads into a ridiculously good fight.
Oh,
This is the best fight in the movie.
Yeah.
And also, it's one of the interesting times where like they were willing to animate and show Chun-Li with her hair down and putting her hair up, which is actually interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you never really see that. I never realized.
Yeah, I like that this kind of shows the Street Fighters kind of in just casual situations. Like, I like that it shows E Honda just talking to Ryu after a fight. I like that it shows Chun-Li putting her hair up. And it's like, that's... Again, maybe it's because I'm a Street Fighter fan and I do just love these characters, but it's like, that's cool to see. Like, it's kind of like when Batman and Superman just have lunch. Like, it's just cool to see.
I mean, it's a joke in the live-action Jean-Claude Van Damme one, but, like, it is kind of cool that they all do have day jobs in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, they all do stuff. So, like, that is a cool aspect of it that they're just regular guys. But when they're not regular guys, they're kicking ass.
They're fighting, yeah.
Which you might be wondering, well, why didn't you do that one? We'll save that for when we get news on the live-action movie.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, there you go.
So the Vega fight is happening. It is really good. It's. I think this is the best animated moments of the movie. Like,
Yeah.
none of it feels skipped on. None of it feels like there's any like regurgitated footage. It feels just like they went all like a lot of the $6 million budget went to this scene.
They also really worked on making Vega look scary and intimidating. He almost looks like a serial killer in this scene.
Which he is. So,
Until you get to the part later on where he's like, my beautiful face is ruined, which made me kind of groan.
He takes his mask off, and the thing that is great about Vega that none of the movies have realized, and honestly, it's something that I more of, is that like when he's in control, he's menacing. He is this like, I will like own you. I am the best. But the moment you put him slightly in an uncomfortable position, he becomes a whiny, scared man-child.
You gotta knock him off his rhythm.
And they do that perfectly because the moment Chun-Li lands a kick and throws a couch at him.
yeah, Chun-Li, like, fucking burns his face, like, steps on it and just twists her fucking heel into it.
That moment he breaks down, and it was really cool. Like, it's well done moment for Vega, and the fight is really good. It ends basically with Chun-Li breaking Vega through the wall.
Yeah, kicks him enough times that he just bursts through a wall.
And she has lost a lot of blood. She's been scratched all over. I will say, I'm not going to go like negative on this, or even say anything. It is a little, I think, interesting that the scene that they animated the best or spent the most time and all that is the one with the half-naked lady.
in all honesty, okay, this might sound really weird to kind of defend that. I'd argue that it actually adds to Chun-Li's badassness.
That's fair.
Because she's vulnerable right now. She's in a t-shirt and her underwear. This is not proper fighting attire. She should be getting her ass kicked. And she does take a beating, but she has the power to, climb up, kick Vega's ass through a fucking wall and beat her.
There is absolutely...
That's why I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I think there is a good story reason for it. My reason for bringing it up is not because I don't think it works for the story, because it really does, albeit at this point this kind of ends Chun-Li's arc in the movie, as she is basically sidelined the rest of it. But it is... Because it really does work if they continued on more with Chun-Li, and this was all right, vulnerable, I'm going to go on and I'm going to kick Bison's ass, something like that. But because it just kind of ends her story, some of that kind of... While it's not there, it is there, that element of it, it kind of falls flat at that point because because that emotional moment doesn't have anything more payoff. It's the end.
That's
really
fair, but I'd also argue just Street Fighter in general has that problem.
That's fair.
Where it's sad that unironically the best Street Fighter in terms of actually letting characters get vengeance on Bison is genuinely the live action movie.
Oh, man.
Because in no other Street Fighter continuity, again, as far as I'm aware, do the characters actually get vengeance on Bison. Because in this movie and Street Fighter V, the two that show Bison being taken down, it's Ryu, who in this movie has something that he hypnotizes Ken, but in Street Fighter V, it's literally Ryu is like, oh, I'm the main character. I gotta beat Bison's ass. So
yeah,
he's got main character syndrome.
A little bit of that. Guile arrives late, which is going to be a theme the rest of this movie. Him arriving just a little too late. But yeah, he takes Chun-Li to the hospital, and Chun-Li's pretty much out of this movie at this point.
Yep.
yeah, suffers from a lot of blood loss. So.
Yep. We flash to Ken, who is proposing to not Ryu. Despite, while proposing to Eliza, he is having flashbacks of the time he and Ryu were fighting, and I think, this isn't the headband moment yet. That's the next flashback.
Yes.
That's the next one. So, it's tender moments with them, and while he's picturing Ryu and thinking about him, they almost get hit by a truck.
Yep.
Which, you tell me you've never done that before? Flashing back about your very special friend and then almost getting hit by a truck?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very special friend. There's nothing going on. They're just really close friends.
They're just they're just friends.
They fantasize about each other every day. Don't you do that about the homies?
They are good friends. They became quick friends.
Afterwards,
you don't fantasize the homies good night.
Ken drops off Eliza. She gives kind of an answer, but not really, but she's probably going to accept his proposal.
Yeah, it says I'll think about it, and considering the fact that in the games they have a fucking kid together, she accepts it.
So, all right.
And Ken drives off, listening to, which music? This is Alice in Chains is playing.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
it was
right.
Alice in Chains. Again, this movie has a banging soundtrack.
And at this point, Bison has come for Ken.
Yeah, Bison.
And Ken gets his ass handed to him.
Yeah. He attempts to shit talk Bison. He's like, "Hey, Buffalo."
Buffalo or whatever your name is.
But Ken,
something that could only come from a dubism.
Yeah.
But Ken tries to fight M. Bison. It doesn't go well.
And Bison gets Ken, and once again, Guile is late.
Yeah.
Every time.
For, again, the main character of the movie that was being advertised heavily at the time, he doesn't do shit in this movie.
Yeah.
It would be like if there was an animated movie that came out at the same time as Captain America Civil War, and Captain America didn't do shit. It was Spider-Man who was the main character. It's like, well, that's cool, but...
It's basically if the new Spider-Man movies were less about Spider-Man and more about Flash is how you watched everything through it.
Oh, that would be weird.
That's kind of like he's a character and he's important in it, but why are we focusing so much on him in this movie?
Right.
Other than that he has a history with Bison and is going to be the main character of a live-action movie.
Yeah, and that's why he's the focus, because he was going to be the main character of the live-action movie.
Ken is still thinking a lot of Ryu, as he is naked and getting the Ken doll treatment in Bison's torture room.
Yeah, Bison's basically torturing him and kind of rewriting his memories at this point.
And he's just non-stop thinking of Ryu. Non-stop, and Bison is mind controlling him. At the same time, Ryu is climbing a mountain.
Because he can.
Because he can.
Because, are you going to tell him no?
Well, I mean, when he gets to the top of the mountain, it's where E Honda is, so that's the assumption he's going to meet E Honda.
I really like to imagine it's one of those things where Ryu climbs the mountain and E Honda walks out. It's like, dude, those stairs. Like, you could have just taken the stairs.
And while he's climbing, he has a flashback of when Ken kicks him really hard and cuts his face and then gives him his headband.
Well, it's Ryu's headband. It's Ken's hair tie because he's got long-ass hair in the flashback.
Well, yes,
Which long-haired Ken's my favorite Ken. I love Ken with long hair.
it looks good. And again, styles are great. These characters look great in this movie.
Absolutely.
These flashbacks would actually lead way to the Alpha series, the Street Fighter Alpha series, which is a prequel to the Street Fighter 2 story. Mm-hmm. And I'll be perfectly honest, the Alpha designs are my favorite designs of the whole series. I love the Alpha designs.
Guile arrives kind of on time this time. Close-ish. And to be like, hey, Bison has Ken. And Ryu's like, what? What do you mean? No, Ken would never be evil.
And then evil Ken comes in.
And then evil Ken arrives.
It's like an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia thing. What? Ken would never be evil. Ken turns evil.
Bison monologues a little bit, and then E Honda is tired of it and is like, I'm either going to kill you or die, and goes charging after him.
Yeah. I'm either going to kill you or I'm going to kill myself, which is like a very out of nowhere line.
Bison, though, teleports away, and he goes smack into Balrog. And there's a little bit of a E Honda Balrog fight.
Which is a lot of the fights in this movie are animated gorgeously. There's part of me that wishes we saw a little bit more of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, especially E Honda and Balrog. I'm like, ooh, these are the two big boys. That could be a sick fight. What? It's over.
Yeah, you don't see very much of it. There are 3 fights going on at that point. E Honda, Balrog. Guile is getting the absolute piss beaten out of him by Bison.
Hey, Guile, here's your one fight in the movie. It's you getting your ass whipped.
He doesn't.
You don't get a single hit off.
Who gets beaten worse? The guy that Ryu headbutts in the arena, or Guile versus him?
Guile. Look, the headbutt guy was over quick. It just took one hit. Guile is at least still standing, but yeah.
It's not much. Ryu is fighting Ken, but he is clearly holding back because he doesn't want to fight him, and he's trying to reach Ken, who mind controlled.
This isn't you.
And
I'm pretty sure he says that at one point.
Yes,
multiple times.
Yes, he does.
Their special love bond is starting to break Ken's mind control. He is slowly breaking it, and eventually he does break free.
Which, I'll be perfectly honest, normally that's a cliche that I roll my eyes at, but I like that there's a little line earlier where, like, he's not ready, the hypnosis is not fully complete.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so it makes sense.
Why it did is because Bison pushed it too fast.
Yeah, so I'm fine with that, even though normally that cliche I always kind of roll my eyes at.
And then Bison shows up and basically smacks Ken to oblivion.
Yeah, Bison and Ryu start to fight, and I think Sean said it best. Bison decides to embody every fucking fighting game final boss and be a cheap little bitch.
He has his like 2-hand purple ball attack thing that he does. He teleports, he flies.
Can he teleport in the games?
Yeah, at least in one of them, I'm pretty sure.
It's complicated.
Because it's not even really a true teleport. Like walking, it looks like he's just moving really fast.
So it looks like teleport.
It looks like teleporting.
Yeah, so I think that's probably what it is, because he can do that in the games. So.
It is, though, here, even though Ryu is losing this fight badly, he is the only one who is actually touching Bison occasionally, like actually getting close to Bison.
Yeah.
And hitting, even though I don't think he gets any hits off yet on him, but it's like, okay, Yeah, if Bison weren't doing the cheap OP tricks, he would get a fight.
Yeah.
He would get in on this.
It's very obvious Ryu is the best of them. Ryu is the best Street Fighter in terms of just combat prowess, which I like that it's kind of subtle about showing that.
And then Ken is coming back to basically his mind is coming back, and he my legs aren't working. Okay, all right, let's get up. All right, flashbacks. All right, yep, we love Ryu. Yep, okay, all right, standing. All right.
I can fight now.
All right, I can fight. I'm gonna even the odds here, and he gets into the fight, and then we get a Ryu and Ken fight against Bison.
That is very reminiscent of one Hobbs and Shaw.
Very reminiscent. Yeah. You have some great. There's one moment where like Bison swings down and Ryu like latches on to Bison's arm and then tries to flip him over. Bison's able to stop it. And when Ryu finally starts landing punches, they are big punches.
Yeah, very big punches.
I like that Ryu just delivers a beat down on Bison.
It is. There's a little bit like we don't have enough for it to be like super cathartic because Bison is. It's a movie. It's not super long. There's not a lot of like Bison doesn't do a lot in this movie other than being like the vague boogeyman in the background for a lot of it.
Yeah,
the punches still feel good.
Yeah, it's not like Universal Soldier's beatdown where you're just like, yeah, this guy deserves everything he's getting.
Right.
This one, it's still cool. Like it's still like this beatdown is still pretty satisfying, but it's more like this guy's just a dick. Take him down.
And then both Ryu and Ken fire super mega ultimate Hadokens.
Yeah.
And we get a big attack that knocks Bison out for good.
Like
Question mark.
Makes him fly through, like shoots him through the
helicopter,
the helicopter plane thing,
and then the helicopter blows up.
And then which is a very satisfying villain death.
It is very satisfying.
Yeah.
We'll get to why it's less satisfying in a few seconds.
Well,
but at the moment, it was very satisfying.
At the moment, yeah.
Guile gets a phone call from the hospital, and it's like, oh no, and he runs to Chun-Li. Oh, she's dead. Oh, at least we killed Bison before you. And she's like, I know.
Yeah,
because she's not dead.
Yeah, she just surprises him, which I really like this part, because...
I like it. It's just really weirdly placed in the movie. Like, I get it. It's funny. It's just like...
I mean,
we come straight down from, like, beating Bison in this huge emotional moment, and, like, it just hits this... It's very anime. I've seen this sort of thing, a lot of things, so I'm not saying it's bad. It's just it is a little bit of a whiplash moment.
That is fair.
Yeah.
That is fair.
Ryu says bye to Ken. Ken's going to go off with Eliza, and Ryu's going to walk away.
And walk.
And walk. And the credit music start playing. And the credits start. But it's not over, because a truck is coming towards him. Oh gosh, it's Bison. Freeze frame. Korn starts playing.
Yeah, that's the end.
Look, I love the shit out of this movie. I do have two genuine problems with it. One, the lack of Guile. I do think Guile, for as important a character as they're building him up to be, should have done more. Mm-hmm. Two, I don't like this ending.
It reminds me the ending of the way this movie ends reminds me of a Phineas and Ferb bit where they're like in a fantasy world and there are these two giant monsters fighting and there's like heavy metal music playing and then like one of the monsters falls and the music's like, and now the beast is down for good. But wait, it's getting back up again, and he does that like 3 times.
There's a very WWE wrestling feel to the end of this.
Yeah. You know what? That's probably the best way to put it, because WWE is one of the places where it's like, oh my god, you fell into the literal pits of hell. You're probably going to be tortured for all eternity. Oh, you're fine next week? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of got a feel of almost like, gotcha.
But
there's going to be more movies. Go watch the live action one next year.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like, it's a little underwhelming for, especially because that final blow to Bison is so good. It's so damn satisfying. So him surviving it's on brand for Street Fighter, I'll admit. But
it's
I'm also
on brand
like
for anime, so yeah.
But I'm also like, oh, come on.
And because again, you don't ever want to beat the big bad because you've got to sell more stuff.
Yeah. Even though, ironically, Bison would not be the big bad of Street Fighter 3, so they could have just killed him here, but whatever.
Yeah, but
Hindsight's 2020, so.
But yeah, that's Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. And on this podcast, we like to ask 2 important questions of every film that we watch. The first one is, how does this movie hold up?
This is one of those movies that's like dated in the best way.
Mostly.
I will kind of 100% agree.
It's like it's so of its time, but at the same time, that's not really a bad thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that doesn't hold up is, Balrog's design and kind of the Chun-Li sexualization.
A little bit.
At the same time, that's also kind of evocative of that 90s anime.
And even modern anime, and it's again, it's not...
And, look, I ain't a prude. I like the titty, so...
But it holds up really well because it is gorgeously animated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeously animated. Yeah, there's a few moments where facial expressions and things are really off, but my god, this movie is designed and animated. You can see the money right there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is gorgeously designed and animated and everything, so...
But yeah, there are moments in the story, because it's a fighting game, characters get put to the side, arcs kind of feel a little unfulfilled, specifically Chun-Li. Chun-Li,
Yeah.
is investigating this. Oh, we're gonna sideline it. I guess Bison died, but does anything about what she did this movie feel
Yeah, I know.
satisfying?
Admittedly, even though I do love the fight between her and Vega, I adore that fight. I feel like it probably should have been placed at the end with everyone else. So, E Honda's fighting Balrog, Chun-Li is fighting Vega. Hell, bring DJ in and maybe have him fight Sagat, because Sagat just kind of disappears.
Yeah, you could have done a little more with the fighting things, or even a lot of it, but the only way, unfortunately, with Guile you can put away, because a lot of Guile, you don't hear about. Like, Chun-Li talks about her past and all these things, and we have the flashback of Bison remembering that past. So, unfortunately, the only satisfying ending to her arc is if she killed Bison.
Yeah.
And because we don't get that, it just kind of feels a little empty.
Which, sadly, again, is a major thing in Street Fighter in general. They, for some reason, just won't let Chun-Li kill this son of a bitch. It's always got to be someone else.
Won't let her have her ending, or at least have her be there, have her have some of the ending moments.
Have her get a head off. Like, it just came out, so I'll bring this up. It's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, where the final beatdown on the High Evolutionary is just everyone getting their smacks in.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a really satisfying ending.
Considering they made Bison so OP, there would have been nothing wrong with 3 or 4 people fighting in that final fight against him.
Yeah, maybe, Guile gets a flash kick in, Chun-Li gets the Kikyoken, DJ does his moves. I'll be honest, I don't play that much DJ. And then have Ryu and Ken finish it off with the double Hadouken.
Yeah.
I think that would have been dope. But this movie still smacks. This movie's still pretty dope.
Yeah, and it holds up just fine. There's just some things that, on that I wish would have, concluded arcs, but...
Hey, live-action Street Fighter producers, you listening?
Yeah.
There are definitely ways to make this franchise into a movie. But yeah, I don't think there's really anything that doesn't hold up aside from that. I think everything else, music, yeah, it's a little cheesy in parts, holds up. The soundtrack holds up well.
Yeah.
Action holds up. Animation holds up. Voice acting, but it's a little bit of the 90s, so I get why you might say it doesn't hold up particularly well. But
but
nothing about it outside of a couple of the reads from Ken's voice actor at the beginning. None of and that was only at the beginning. None of the voice acting felt bad necessarily. Just felt like, oh yeah, that's how 90s voice acting was.
Ken is one of those. Ken's the only voice who I was like, that's not exactly what I picture Ken as, but Ryu I think was spot on. Chun-Li was perfect. Guile was perfect. Bryan Cranston as Fei Long is not what I imagined, but it's very funny, so I'll allow it.
Yeah, it all works. The second question we ask on this podcast of every film that we watch: what can modern movies take from it?
So, this is something that, especially recently, video game movies have gotten better at, but I'm still not 100% convinced they've gotten down yet, because it's only been a couple of movies that have done this recently. It's staying true to the source material and keeping that sort of keeping it video game accurate. You know, you don't have to change so much stuff to make it work in a
Especially
movie.
designs.
Yes, exactly. There's no reason to have to change the designs in order to make a movie. If you want to change like a couple of story things, that's fine. But as long as you keep everything true to the characters, the way that they design, the way that they are, the way that the world is, as long as you keep it true to that's all you need.
I'm just going to be perfectly honest. What I think modern movies can take from this is kind of... I know we bring up 2D animation, everyone, but that obviously just do more 2D animation, even if this is anime, so it's not quite the same.
Because make more anime. I don't think that's a problem.
I'm okay with that.
There's so many.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, what I think modern movies can take from this one is... I like me some fight movies. And this is a pretty rad fight movie. So I would say maybe do some more fight movies. And genuinely also... there's something that... You know, movies are getting better about this, but there's still occasionally the one where I'm rolling my eyes. There's actually not a romance in this movie. Guile and Chun-Li kind of have something going on, but it's more of a father-daughter, mentor-teacher kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Not every movie needs romance.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with romance, but not every movie... Don't force it in.
Yeah, don't force it in. Don't feel the need to... Heck, that is actually something that the live-action movie also does well. There's not a romance in that, and it's not really necessary. So, yeah, I would say give me more fight movies. You don't need romance and everything. 2D animation, obviously. And, yeah.
I'll actually kind of piggyback on your don't need romance in a little bit from it, is that you don't have to have your emotional beats come from romance. You don't have to have it.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to be a little homoerotic and things. Like, it's okay if your guy character is absolutely obsessed with another guy in that way to try to... Friendship is okay motivation.
Yeah, look, we make the jokes, but in all honesty, in this movie, Ken and Ryu are genuinely just really good friends.
They're great. Yeah, it's a great
bros.
friendship.
And the fact that they care for each other that much...
It allows the same emotional beat to be hit at the end than it would have been with a forced-in romance, you know?
Yeah.
It's okay. You can get that emotion from any of these sort of things, but I think studios have been and other people have been so scared to put them out because of being the blowback of, oh, they're gay, you know, oh, that's why it's bad. No, it's okay.
Yeah, but fuck them.
It's okay to love the homies. Like, it's okay to be like...
Yeah, it's okay to just be really good friends, like, unironically.
Yeah, it will have the same emotional impact as a lot of times romances will in movies. Sometimes more.
Arguably even more, yeah.
Yeah, especially if, you know, over a poorly integrated, just forced-in romance, you know, a good friendship is going to work just fine here. And this movie focuses on that, and so even though I may have some problems with some of the arcs being unresolved, the big emotional impact of this movie hits. Mm-hmm. It hits. And so, like, movies, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of it, because you can get the same emotional impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. What do you guys think? Do you like this movie? Or is there another Street Fighter movie that you like more? Well, you can let us know, either by commenting below here on this Patreon, or sending us an email to bleepyouplaying@gmail.com. That's bleepyouplaying@gmail.com.
Are you one of the people who prefers Street Fighter Alpha movie to this movie? Genuinely, are you out there? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. And would you like us to watch a different movie? One of the other Street Fighter movies? You can make us do that by subscribing to our Super Bleephead tier here on Patreon. Patreon.com/whatthebleep. It's patreon.com/whatthebleep. So yeah, make us watch Legend of Chun-Li. torture Mason.
Please don't.
Oh, jeez.
Please don't.
But yeah, we'll be back next time with a lot more action. So yeah, see you then.
I liked it.